This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. And on the line, we have Gorgeous George, who was a former WCW, TNA, and ECW star. She was also part of the Gorgeous Frankenstein band and worked for Danzig. And she was the valet of Macho Man Randy Savage. So, welcome to the Hannibal TV. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. We're working towards our big upcoming event, August 26th. I understand you're moving away from wrestling now. You're getting into food blogging, a lot of other stuff, but most people remember you from your time as Macho Man's valet in WCW. Do you want to tell us how that whole thing happened?
Well, it was kind of like, well, first I want to say thank you for having me on. It was kind of like all out of chance type thing. Like it was totally like a fate thing. I never sought out wrestling. I met Randy in a weird way. I met him at the Doll House in Tampa, Florida. Kind of like a freak thing happened that night. And then we became friends and we started to date. And then he asked me if I wanted to be his valet or Tori Wilson was going to be his valet. So out of necessity, I guess I had to do it. So I did it. And, it was really, I mean, it was either the people were going to take into me or not. So it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Either I can do it or I can't. And it turned out to be good. And I had a great run with wrestling. It was fun and I learned a lot. And I've traveled for like the last 22 years doing it. So I'm kind of getting tired.
Now,
but I had a really good time. Huh?
For Macho Man, Randy Savage, before you met him, did you know who he was?
Oh yeah, like when I was a little kid, I used to watch rock and roll wrestling cartoons.
Okay.
And I mean, I used to watch, Hulk Hogan and him on TV with Mean Gene. And when I met him, the day that I actually met him, it was kind of like a surreal dream. Like it wasn't real. Like it didn't even come to my head that that's what it was at first. Like I was like, who's this guy bothering me? I didn't even think that was him. And I was like, the last thing I'm going to be thinking about is rock and roll wrestling cartoon when, those guys like in my face outside of a strip club. Like, yeah, it was kind of weird. It was a weird situation for sure, but it all worked out good.
We all heard all the stories about how he used to be really possessive of Elizabeth and stuff. Did you find he was like that with you, or had he mellowed out by that time?
No, at first he was fine. And then the longer that we were going out together, the worse and worse it got. And all the stories that Miss Elizabeth said were becoming true to me as well. It got to the point that it got so bad that when we would go to the wrestling shows, he would find broom closets and clean them out and make me sit in there while he went and got my food from catering because he didn't want me to make eye contact with other wrestlers. And once he started doing that, and he was putting cameras in my house and all kinds of stuff like that, and tapping my phone, and had people following me, and it got way too much. I just couldn't handle it anymore.
How did he take the breakup? How did he take the breakup?
Not good. And I think for me, I was probably like one of the only people in the world that he could trust, and for him to think that I would do anything where he would have to watch me like that or video, it was very, very hurtful to me. Okay. Like I instantly hated him. Like as soon as I found the cameras and stuff, so it was a really, really bad breakup. And I never seen him again. And then now he passed away after we broke up.
Is there anything about him that most people wouldn't know about him that you knew being so close to him, like something that would surprise us?
I know that he never wanted to have children, and he, as much as he was very nice to kids and stuff like that when he was around them, he didn't want nothing to do with kids. You would think he was, he was into them, but he wasn't. He was like more of a, I don't know, he was very kind of selfish with his being, I guess you could say, because I have a son that was small when we were dating, and I used to have to say things to him all the time, like, this is like a package deal. You got to pay a little attention to him. It can't just be me and you all the time. And, if he had his way, he would have just erased my kid. That was another problem with our relationship as well, to where it started getting like that at the end. And he just couldn't handle it. He liked
I
animals. He didn't like kids.
Oh, really? What type of animals did he have?
Oh, he was really, really into animals. I don't know if this is true or not, but I know that I heard that when he passed away, his money, if it didn't go to the wife that he married, it went to the ASPC. That was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
SPCA or something.
yeah,
Like
you know
that.
what I mean. Like for the animal shelters and stuff. And if it didn't all go to her, I know that there was probably a big piece that was donated to them because that's what he wanted to do.
And I'm
And I
sure
asked
some
him,
went to Lanny and his mother too, I imagine.
yeah, that's a whole nother situation on its own too with that mess. I loved his parents very, very much, but I don't think Randy was too close with his brother. I know he wasn't.
Yeah, at one point I knew his brother pretty well. I don't really get along with him anymore. Did you ever have much contact with his brother? I'm sure he probably was really close.
I've only actually been in the same room with him like 4 times my entire life, and he has a lot of bad things apparently to say about me. And and the truth is, I'm actually writing a book right now, and it should be out before Christmas, and it will have a lot of the details of that relationship as well as with his family and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny right now, like how Lanny's all in the spotlight after he passed because he never was around when Randy was around.
And the thing that bothered me about it was I don't know if Randy ever told you this, but he didn't want to be in the WWE Hall of Fame pretty adamantly, apparently. And then obviously something happened where they likely gave Lanny some money, and Lanny gave his blessing for Randy to go in there. Do you think Randy would have wanted to go into the Hall of Fame?
We actually had to talk about that once. He never said whether he did or he didn't, but I definitely think he should have been recognized for all of the achievements and how much money and all the shit he's done.
Yeah.
The WWE, you know what I mean? And everybody else, like, it's crazy that one of the main wrestlers of all time wasn't going to get in there. And then when I found out that he was, I think that it was kind of to go. I mean, like out of everybody.
Oh, I think you're cutting out a bit here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Hello?
I think you just cut out for like the last 5 seconds.
It's this one. When I found out that he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I thought it was kind of crappy that I wasn't allowed to go. Apparently, Lanny had told everybody that I shouldn't be able to go.
I see.
I think they were afraid of what I would have said. But even out of all the bad things that had ended up with me and Randy, I still wouldn't have said anything derogatory or mean about him while he's getting put over on his Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame day or whatever. You know what I mean? And I don't know. That was kind of like Lanny's time to shine, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. That whole thing to me is just like whatever. Because I see him now at some of the signings, and I'm just thinking to myself, there was actually a time because he was getting a check from the WWE or WCW actually, that Randy in his contract was making sure that Lanny was getting paid.
Right.
But Lanny was supposed to always be ready to wrestle. And when Randy would go over there, Lanny's out of shape. He doesn't care. And then Randy's like, I'm getting you a check and you can't even go to the gym.
I think all he did was dye his hair or something because I think that's maybe where the heat came from because wasn't he supposed to be Gorgeous George and you ended up being Gorgeous George?
Well, what it was is he didn't get over with the name. And then when me and Randy were breaking up, it was kind of like Randy was dangling that carrot over my head. And I was just like, well, you know what? I don't need your Gorgeous George. I'll just change my name legally to George. And I did.
Okay.
So now I can be George all I want. Right. And Lanny can keep the Gorgeous George name and put it in a vault and save it so no one can do anything with it, including him. And you know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Now, Lanny told me before off the record, like the true story about Randy and Stephanie McMahon. Did Randy ever tell you what happened there?
Oh, he told me. He told me one day when we were on ecstasy on the beach. I think he didn't mean to tell me that. And then the next morning he goes, did I tell you anything last night on the beach? I'm like, He sure did. He knew exactly what he said, and he was like, shit, you know what I mean? Because it was kind of like the truth drug.
Yeah.
Once he got on that, he just started telling me everything. So it is what it is. And, she knows, he knows what it all was. You know what I mean?
And that's what had a lot to do with the heat there for a while, I guess, with him in the WWE.
Yeah, I wonder what was the actual breaking point where they were like, okay, it's fine for him to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. But that'd be I guess that's going to be all in your book. Do you want to talk a little bit about the book you're working on?
It's taken me, and I'm writing it with a guy the King of Connecticut, Matthew Granahan. He did a book of, he also wrote the Rough and Tumble, a book on rock, the history of MMA. And so me and him started working together like 3 years ago on the book. And then I was living in South Carolina at the time, and we were working together closely, but then I moved. And I've been so busy doing stuff all over the country and things that, it's kind of fall to the wayside, but it's done. I just got to put the finishing touches and get the pictures for it and try to get it out before Christmas.
Now, you were married to one of the Misfits. Did you meet him in WCW when they were working in WCW?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I think your phone's cutting out again.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this phone cuts in and out. Yeah, his first day of wrestling was like my last day of wrestling, and that's how we met.
Okay, so it was behind the scenes at Nitro or something when he was with Vampiro.
Mm-hmm. And then I just seen Vampiro recently at Lucha Libre. That was nice to see him. It's been a long time.
Yeah, he's worked for our company up here before. He's
a great guy. He's awesome. I love Vampiro. Really good guy. Yeah, I mean, their little stint in WCW wasn't but just a couple shows with Dr. Death. And, that's how it all started. And by then, me and Randy's relationship had completely fallen apart. That's when I had found the cameras in my house that he had put in there. And we were doing the Slim Jim stuff. And it was just everything in my power to actually get in an airplane and have to sit next to him to do the last couple things we had to do together. It was torture. And like he started to put his hands on me at the end, and he did it in front of my son, and he was completely out of control from all the steroids.
Did you ask for your release due to all the issues you were having with him, or do you think he?
No, he did it.
Yeah, he wanted you gone, right, pretty much, right?
Well, he was like more or less telling them that if they hired me, then he would quit.
Okay.
So it was just like, it's either her or me. And then he went around and he was like blackballing me from wrestling. Like, if you try to hire George for any shows, then I'm going to sue you and this, that, and the other. And a lot of people that were booking me at the time, I kept telling them, please stop using the name Gorgeous George. Just say George Frankenstein, previous known as Gorgeous George, WCW. They were putting it on the marquee and doing all this and that. And then they were actually coming in one time and served me papers at the Emerald Theater in Chicago, Illinois, while I was on stage.
Wow.
Like to sue me for these clubs and these people putting it, on the marquee, Gorgeous George, and it had nothing to do with me, but you could tell somebody not to do that and they'll turn around and do it for the, people to know who I was and things like that. And it is what it is. It's been a long ride with this wrestling stuff with me. I mean, I'm completely blessed to be part of it, and I wouldn't take it back for anything. Like every day of my life, I mean, wrestling's inside me, forever. And I'm so blessed to meet all the wrestlers and all the fans and everybody that's been a huge part of my 22 years of being around all this. So I'm very blessed with it, but I think it's time for me to switch gears here, man. I don't want to be still sitting there in the old people sections where, when we're at the signings, I just don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Were you ever actually trained to be a wrestler, or did you just kind of like for your matches?
Both. But Randy always had a problem with me. He didn't want me to do it because he didn't want me to get hurt, and so like he let me learn so much and then stop it. And sometimes I get mad about that because I could have been doing all kinds of other stuff in the last 20 years, but then again, I'm already in so much pain as it is from the little injuries that I do have. I can't imagine like the girls that wrestle nowadays, how their wrestling is so amazing. By the time they're my age, you know what they're going to feel like? I hate to feel that, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
I can't. I don't want to know. You know?
Who was it that brought you to ECW when you started there?
It was Molly Holly.
Okay. Because she was with Savage. I guess she managed Savage for a while too, right?
Yes, she did. She helped me. She's the one who was actually teaching me in Florida how to wrestle. And she was actually, I think she was living with Lanny at the time when I first met her. That's how I met her. And
poor thing.
Oh, I know. I don't think she knew any better. But yeah, I'm sure she's got a couple stories about that one. But
that's probably a whole book.
Oh my God, I try not to run anybody under the mud, but it's just like, if it's true, it's true. I mean, I'm not totally killing everybody with what I could, but it is what it is. It's the truth. You know what I mean?
So she made some calls for you and got you booked in ECW.
Well, it was like I had been standing around for a little while, and then I talked to Just Incredible, and who else was it? Sabu, and who else was I talking to at that time? Oh, Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
A whole bunch of people were just like, "Yeah, come down, George." And then I wasn't used to the ECW crowd at all. It was a complete 180 compared to WCW. Those guys are rowdy, and that is a whole different scene. It was great. I loved it, but yeah, it was definitely a shock compared to what I was used to.
How did they treat you there? Was it good overall?
All those people, they're awesome. I love Tommy Dreamer. He's awesome. I actually just seen him at Lucha Libre, and he was telling me, because I just moved back to Jersey, so he's got the House of Hardcore in Philly, and I haven't went that way yet to say hi, but I'm sure I will.
Was it Dreamer that got you hooked up with TNA as well?
You know what? I'm thinking, I can't remember who that was. I think it was Jeff Jarrett at the time.
Okay.
It could have been Jeff Jarrett, or it was Jericho. I can't remember. I know that I was talking to Conan and them as well, and it's been so long, I cannot really remember. It's funny that you asked me that. Maybe I should start thinking. There's pieces of my mind from being through all this, unless someone brings it up, I don't even think about it or remember it. You know what I mean? Or showed me a video clip. I'm like, oh my God, I never even thought about that memory and since it happened. You know what I mean?
Right. How did you like your time in TNA overall?
I wasn't there, but just a little bit. And what happened was, this is my interpretation of what happened. I'm not really sure to this day what happened, but I was with Sabu, and we were traveling together, and we went to the show at TNA. Well, when we went to the airport, he had gotten hurt, and they'd put him on some kind of medication, and it was making him completely kind of, he was out of it that day. He was in a lot of pain, and I was helping him carry his luggage. Well, we went up to the ticket counter, and something was wrong with my ticket. So him just trying to be my friend, he called Terry Taylor, and he said, "What's wrong with George's ticket?" And then he started screaming at him, saying, "You know what, George told me to tell you to get effed." I was like, "Oh no!" And then the next day I called because I was supposed to be on the show, and then they were like, didn't even call me back.
Okay.
So to this day, I have no clue if that had something to do with it or what.
A lot of people, I don't have much experience with him, but a lot of people really hate Terry Taylor. Do you have any idea why that could be?
I don't know. I hear good stories. I hear bad, but everybody's got those, so I don't know the truth about any of it because I don't know him like that. I've only met him a couple times, and every time I've ever met him, he's been really nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So after TNA, you did a lot of independence, and
yeah, I kind of went backwards in my career. Most time people do the independence first. Well, I did it last. So I have been working this East Coast and so much there for a while. I just saturated it with going to indie shows all weekend long and doing signings. And it's kind of funny now because when I do signings in New York, New Jersey, any of these states over here, I know everybody when they come to the place. It's like, "Hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while." So I did work here a lot going to these shows, and it really shows when I know everybody when I go to the shows now. So yeah.
So were you doing that while you were in the band? Were you doing that while you were in the band?
Yes, and I was also feature dancing on a feature dancing circuit for Continental Agency and the Lee Network. I guess they like book porno people too, but it was pretty good. I mean, I did 7 years of that and made a lot of money. And my ex-husband actually used to come with me when I danced, and he was like my roadie. And so in between us doing the band and me doing signings and stuff like that, and him doing signings, then we just went with me, and I would get booked at all these places across the country for the weekend to dance.
And is that how you got involved in the video side of it too? I'm not sure if you actually did any like intercourse.
Well, no, that video that's on there is. It was. I worked at like this webcam thing for like 2 days when I was like really super young, and it was before I got famous. And then when I got famous, the people that made that tape just like hung that over my head, like they were gonna completely, like Randy even tried to give them money to tell them to stop. So they were really like blackmailing us.
Okay.
And they put it out there anyways. And apparently, that's been through a couple hands, and I tried to stop it, but there's no stopping it. I mean, it is what it is. It was that place that I worked at was actually like the very first place for webcam girls in the world, and I just so happened to work there. I didn't like it. I just did it to get money to move into an apartment. And then Randy, when it came out on video, they had put his name on it, like the Macho Man Randy Savage's girlfriend. He actually sued them for $1.5 million, and I didn't get a penny of any of it, and it's me in the video. It's horrible. It ruined my life, and I honestly think that, I was really young when I did that, and I was doing it because I was more or less starving, and so those people took one of my hardships and turned it into something to ruin my life. And when something's on the internet, it's there forever. So like I always tell these young girls that are getting into stuff like that now, I'm like, you're going to be my age one day, and that stuff's still going to be stuck on there, and you're not going to be able to get it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but now there's also a lot of wrestlers that have actually gone into pornography, which you weren't in. You did like a little video, which I don't think showed much. I haven't seen it. I just read it in your bio. But what do you think? Like China did it, Sunny did hardcore stuff.
I'm not into all that. I got kids.
Yeah. No, but like, what do you think about wrestlers doing that? Even all these cell phone that are supposedly.
I mean, to me, it's to each his own. I mean, your sexuality and the way that you portray yourself and how you care about your sexuality out there to the public is up to your own discretion. If you got kids and stuff like I do, that video really, really affected my family when it came out. My son was in high school at the time, and that's just, it was bad. And, like then people could have costed something really bad in our family to happen because they wanted to make money off me. And, sometimes, the world can be a bad thing. And, I wouldn't recommend it to nobody. I mean, because someday that little money that you get is not going to last, and that tape will last forever.
Right.
And it always seems to come back to haunt you. It doesn't matter. Even though things are in your past, they do affect your future, no matter what anybody says. I mean, that, nowadays, anything on the internet is there to stay. So if you're taking pictures on your phone, videos on your phone, and you don't want anyone ever to see them, and you don't want that to get out in any way, what if somebody loses their cell phone? You know what I mean? Like, I've lost my cell phone like 13 times in 1 year. And just think if I would have had nasty stuff on there, and then people would have been able to get that. You know what I mean? I'd be in the same position back again,
Now, you were also telling me earlier that you've been in the marijuana growing industry, medical marijuana, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've been doing for like the last 5 years.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, one of the guys that I used to see is actually Be Real from Cypress Hill. Okay. And if you guys know anything about him, he's pretty deep into the cannabis community. And I've always been interested in growing it and, like the health benefits from it. I don't even smoke marijuana. I mean, I do, like just to try it or like in the pens or whatever, but like to sit around and get high, I used to be like that all the time. Yeah. And then one day I just wasn't getting nothing done, man. I would just sit around and veg out. And I just quit smoking. But I mean, now I can't sleep or whatnot, but it's not like a big thing in my life. But, I have friends that have cancer that don't have cancer anymore because of this.
And
So
there's
it's
other
real.
ways to take it other than smoking that are
Right.
healthier ways to take it as well.
I mean, I'm all about anything that has to help health benefits. I'm actually a very healthy person, even though I like to drink beer. But I mean, on a daily basis, I do watch what I eat, and I take vitamins every day, and I have for my entire life. And I try to stay healthy. But yeah, the whole cannabis industry in California, where I was working, is just blown up. It's created a lot of jobs for people. It's saving people's lives. It's
Is it
definitely
fully legal there now?
Yeah, but I mean, there's things you have to do. You have to have the card, and you have to have so much on you, and there's certain places you can and cannot do it, and stuff like that. There's still rules, but it's awfully funny. Like, I was living in Alabama before I moved back to Jersey, and before I was living in California again. And a friend of mine had a $20 bag of weed in his car, and he got pulled over, and they wanted to give him 5 years.
Yeah, that's
for ridiculous. A little bag of weed, and it's just like, some states are legal, some states aren't, and it's ridiculous, all the people that are in jail for it.
Yeah, I think Florida it's illegal too, but like Colorado,
instead of spending taxpayers' money on people that smoke weed and get busted with some weed and housing them in jail and prisons, they need to start putting that money towards education for the schools and other things that they could be doing with that than using it on stupid stuff like that. It's overwhelmingly dumb. I mean, I don't know.
And it's going to be fully legal here in Canada in October. The new government here is legalizing it for recreational use. So in my opinion, it's way safer than alcohol because I've done security for years. People on weed aren't going to cause any problems. They're going to
I mean, the pros and the cons, they don't even weigh. I mean, it's just totally not even there. With the whole alcohol thing is just so bad. But I'm totally for everybody. Just, if somebody's sick and they shouldn't be able to have a hard time getting something that's going to heal them. You know what I'm saying? Or like having, I know people that have children that have seizures that don't have seizures anymore, and they don't have to take any prescription medication.
And if you're on chemotherapy, it'll help your appetite.
Yeah, we don't even got to do that anymore. It is what it is. The world is changing, and hopefully it's for the better. And I've been pretty lucky to be part of the whole cannabis movement. It's been good to work with people and learn about it, and be in the on the farm and be up in the Redwood Mountains and living in tents and stuff. It's awesome. I've had a great experience doing all of it. Met a lot of really cool people.
Is there anyone that's currently in wrestling now in WWE or Impact Wrestling that you still talk to?
I love Medusa. I love Molly Holly. I'm friends with everybody when I see them. I kind of back away from wrestling because I don't know. Once I stopped doing all the indie shows here on the East Coast, I kind of went towards the whole cannabis thing and started having a whole new life with that out there. So I kind of backed away from the whole wrestling stuff. Jasmine Sinclair's a really good friend of mine. Love her to death. Who else do I talk to?
Did you have any heat when you came to WCW at first? Because
do I have any what?
Did you have any heat when you first came to WCW because like Macho Man got you in there, and there can be some
I had secret heat. I had a lot of secret heat, if you want to call it that. Yeah. A lot of people wouldn't, show it to me, but I heard about it through the grapevine. A lot of the guy wrestlers were kind of jealous because they were paying for me to have first class plane tickets and limos and, real good hotel rooms and stuff like that. But they got to remember I was with Randy. You know what I mean? Like,
and you paid a price for that.
I paid a big price for that, and it wasn't easy. And on top of all that, I ended up paying my dues in the end. I mean, like I said, I've been doing the indies for the last 20 years. I've watched people that were just in the indies with me, CK Punk, so many I could just name off. And now they've all been superstars. You know how proud I am of all of them. All the days that we've been on the road together, traveling from, city to city, state to state, every weekend. So every weekend for years. And to see them actually get up there and do that, I am so proud of all of them. It's just, some of them were so young when they started, and they were like in their teenage years, now they're grown women, and I was there for all that. So yeah, I'm like super proud of people. I'm really, really happy that they got their dream, and like the way that I got into wrestling was through Randy. So I didn't have that passion that they had, not until later, and they had that right away, and that's what they were for.
So, what's your favorite memory of the wrestling business from the time that you were in it?
I always really, like I was so proud of Randy. He, for as much crap as I went through with Randy, we had a lot more better times. It was at the end when the steroids started getting to his mind and making him paranoid and stuff like that. That was causing the problem. But there's way more better times than there was bad. My favorite thing of wrestling, of all my part of the whole thing, was that was his thing. And like sometimes when we were going out, like the big problem with us was he was always in the spotlight. Like he played minor league baseball first, and then he got into wrestling. So he really never was a normal dude where he like had a normal job and paid normal bills and lived a normal life. So he was kind of like a child actor to me, kind of. So I kind of protected him. Like, I don't know, like there was things that he couldn't even screw a light bulb in. He would call somebody over to do stuff like that. And it was sad because a grown man that age hadn't experienced drugs or anything yet. So when he got with me, it was like he went off the deep end. It was like every time he came to my house, he was on something else. And I'm like, what are you on now? And it was like, I go, what are you trying to do? Kill yourself? And he was like, he was experimenting with drugs because he'd never done it before like that. You know what I mean?
So this story, because there are some people that said when he was young, wrestling in the Memphis territory, that he would do coke and stuff. So as far as
he was allergic to coke. He was allergic to coke. So when he only did that a couple of times when he was with me, and every time he did, his nose would blow up like a balloon and it'd be real red. I knew exactly. He didn't even tell me. He'd be like, I did coke yesterday. It wasn't really a big deal, but the ecstasy and the steroids and the acid and stuff like that is where it started to get crazy.
I could only imagine him on acid.
Oh my God, it was a nightmare. There's so many stories about the way that he would. Oh Lord, he would scare me to death. He'd want to put me in his car and take me through these hell rides while he's tripping on acid. It was definitely an experience, and a lot of people don't know the torture at the end that I was going through. I mean, when I was doing my best in front of the whole world, I was actually doing the worst I've ever done in my life.
What is it about acid that's appealing? I'm just curious because I've never done it. I'm just wondering, like,
I did it when I was a little kid, like when I was a teenager a million times, not as an adult. Yeah, I have too many responsibilities now. It's not like you can go on some trip and get all jacked off when you got kids and stuff. But see, he had never done that. He don't have kids. So he was like experimenting with stuff, and he'd come to my house and go, I took this whole strip of these little pictures. And I'm like, you mean to tell me he just took a strip of acid? And I'd have to deal with him for the next 12 hours, going completely crazy.
What happens on a trip, just out of curiosity? Like, what do you experience?
Well, you see stuff. It depends on how much you took and who you're around and what the elements are going around you. It depends on how you're going to trip. You know what I mean? It can be really fun, really happy, or really sad, or really crazy. You could totally, like, not come back from it, too. I've seen people that done so much acid, they're not the same. They went on a trip and never came home.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And you can have flashbacks, too, right? Like,
yeah, the way that he passed away it's really odd. That when I heard how he died, it's so weird because there was visions of me when I was with him of us dying that way, because when he would leave his parents' house, he'd be so mad at Lanny. Like, I mean, every time we went over there, it was a hell ride on the way back from his parents, because all I heard about from Sarasota all the way back to Tampa was about Lanny. And it was just horrible. His blood pressure would go up.
Like they're friends, that they were always.
Well, no, he went over there. He'd see what Lanny was doing. Lanny wasn't doing what Randy wanted, and he's like, "You're getting a freaking check for $100,000 a year to sit on your ass." He's like, "The least you could do is this, this, and this." Like and so when we would leave his parents' house, I mean, he'd be beat red, his eyeballs would be popping out, veins popping out, he's spitting when he's yelling and talking. I mean, it was bad. And it was like that every single time we left there.
So and Randy wanted Lanny on the road. You're saying Lanny?
No, he wanted him to be ready just in case.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff called and said, "Hey, look, Lanny's getting a check. We need him today, even if it was just a working production."
Yeah.
Anything. Randy wanted him to be ready, so Randy didn't look like an ass.
Because Randy was like,
he doesn't do nothing, all he does is sit on his ass. And so I'd hear about it the entire ride back from his parents. And then apparently when he was with his wife and he got into the wreck, that road that they got in that wreck on, That is the road that we took every time we left there, and he'd be having that freak out. And you know what? His dad was sick. His mom wasn't feeling good. I wouldn't doubt it. He went there, something happened, and when he left there, had a freak out. Because that's when his dad was dying or died already. I don't remember how it went, but that is the street. And sometimes he'd be going, no shit, like 120 miles an hour around this, where that is, where they hit. And I just close my eyes and be like, I'm praying the whole time, like, God, please don't let him have a heart attack and kill us both. And smash into his wall. Like, and this was every single time.
So you've seen him do acid, cocaine.
I never
steroids.
seen him do cocaine, but I've seen him do everything but that.
Not heroin, I'm going to assume.
No, nothing like that.
Just recreation.
Yeah, and you know, it was just like his way to relieve.
What about speed? Would he?
No.
Okay.
No, he would. I mean, he'd take his normal fat burners or whatever, but nothing like speed. But no, he was experimenting with drugs at the end when he was with me so bad that he was giving me like $1,000 a week to go buy ecstasy pills and making me go to a strip club to go do it.
How do you spend $1,000 on ecstasy? Isn't it
because
very
he
cheap?
eats handfuls at a time.
How did he live?
Yeah, I mean, one time we went to a Maryland. I'm going to tomorrow night. But when me and him went and saw them at the Ice Palace in Tampa, he was rolling so hard in front of Sarah, the Undertaker's wife at the time. I didn't even want her to look at him because his eyeballs were rolling in the back of his head in front of Bubba the Love Sponge that was the Tampa DJ. I didn't want them to see him like that because...
Sorry, your phone's cutting out again. This is the WWE show in Tampa?
Huh?
Your phone just cut out. Like, was that the WWE?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it cut out. I heard the Undertaker part, but I didn't hear what.
I didn't want Sarah or the Undertaker's wife at the time or Bubba the Love Sponge to actually see how high he was because it was so bad. I was barely as big as that guy is. He's like a rhino. To try to control him high on something, it's almost impossible. So like it was like everything I could do at that concert to keep him safe and kind of away from everybody. Oh, it was horrible.
What concert was it? So it wasn't a wrestling event?
The Marilyn Manson concert.
Did he like Marilyn Manson? That seems like something.
That was my favorite singer, so he came. He wouldn't let me go nowhere by myself.
Okay. How did he get along with Hogan when you were with him?
Like a love-hate thing.
Yeah.
And like as much as he couldn't stand him, he loved him that much more.
Okay.
And then in the back of my mind, I think it was more of a jealousy thing the whole time. Like he was so worried about what he was doing all the time. Like he'd sit there and talk all this crap about him, but then later on that day be like, "Oh, we're going to Hawk's French Hen restaurant to eat dinner." And I'm like, "Why do you want to go over there when you talk crap all day long and then you want to go hang out with him?" I go, "I honestly think you just want to sit there and see what he's up to." Like he was weird with it.
And you're talking about that you may have played a part in getting Randy on liking some of these drugs that he was taking when he was with you. How did you get involved in taking some of those drugs?
When I met him, I didn't get him involved. When I met, I had just moved from Rockford, Illinois. And at that time, I was actually going out with a drug dealer. Oh. And I left because of it. So when I moved to Tampa, I did not want no drugs in my life at all, whether they were being sold, taken around me. I just had enough. And he was hiding doing the ecstasy from me. And I didn't know because he'd been doing it since I met him. So I didn't.
Right. So you didn't know. Oh, are you there still?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, it cut out for like 5 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's my phone. The first time that he ever told me about it and introduced me to it, I had never been around ecstasy before because in my town where I'm from, it hadn't like hit up there yet. So when I got to Tampa, Florida, down in Ybor City, I'd see all these people in like G-holes and like foaming at the mouth, these little kids on the side of the road. And I'm like, what are they on? And he's like, oh, they're on ecstasy. And I'm like, boy, I would never want to touch that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once he heard me say that, he wasn't going to give me the information, and that's what he does. So he hid it from me for like the first like 5 months. Well, then he would always hang out with this guy, his friend, and I was like, why does that guy always come over just once in a while? You know what I mean? And then when the dude would leave, Randy'd be all tweaked up. And then one day we went to a sushi place and we came home, and he was on one. And I was like, are you all right? And he was like, I got to tell you something. I haven't told you because I don't want you to, like, you know, think bad of me or whatever. He's like, but I do ecstasy. I'm like, that stuff that those kids down in Ybor do? He's like, yeah, but they take too much and they're young and they, you know, he's like, I do it all the time. That way I don't drink and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, I loved him so much that he asked me if I wanted to do it. And I didn't want to because, like I told you, I didn't want nothing to do with that when I first got down there.
Yeah.
And I did it because I loved him. And then we started doing it together. And it was so fun because at first it was fun. Yeah. We're doing it every once in a while, rolling on the beach or going to nightclubs and stuff like that. But then it got out of control. And like I started to I couldn't do my workouts right. I wasn't sleeping right. I mean, I was having bad dreams, all kinds of weird stuff physically I was getting from this stuff. And I told him, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. He's like, well, okay, you don't have to. So he just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And he was getting worse and worse and worse on it. And then he got my sister taking it. And then, like, I'd go to sleep, and my sister was only 17 at the time, and him and her would be sitting on the couch all night rolling. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and they're still sitting there, like, 5 hours later.
What do you do? Like, what effect does it have? I know it makes sex better from what I understand, but, like, what?
It's just that it makes everything better. Noise, food, touch, feel, music. It just enhances everything.
So if you're watching TV, it's going to make TV watching better if you're Randy.
Yeah, everything. It's just like all your senses are like heightened and like everything is just, but the next day you have like the worst hangover, man. It takes me like 2 days to get better. I hated it. And then they just kept doing it and doing it. And then I got to the point where I just got sick to my stomach of looking at him. Like I couldn't even stand him being in my house anymore because every time he was there, he was always on something.
Right.
So, and like he would be out in my hollering and screaming, and all the neighbors would be out there seeing. You know, he's a big dude, and he's out there like running back and forth with his Hummer back and forth, putting holes in my grass and all kinds of stuff. All my neighbors seen this stuff, and they were too scared to even call the police on him.
Oh, because you didn't live together at that time?
Well, I was living with him, and then I moved out. I couldn't handle it.
Okay.
I got.
Oh, you're cutting from him. You just kind of.
I got my own place like 5 minutes down the beach from him. I lived with him at first, and then I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, I see.
He started to he didn't like when my kid was there, and it wasn't homey at his house. And like he's got OCD, so if anything was out of place, it felt like you were living in a hotel room. You weren't allowed to leave nothing lay. It was very uncomfortable.
Did he have a maid or did he clean it himself?
Yeah, he did. And the maid that he had for like, I think 10 years. Okay. And then I started to notice, this is how I found the cameras in my house. I started to notice her stealing stuff. And I told Randy about it. And the only people that was ever in his house was me and him and the maid. And I'm like, I hate to tell you, but I think she's stealing. And he's like, she would never do something like that. And I'm like, dude, the only people in this house is me and you and her. And stuff is really missing. And he's like, well, what kind of stuff? I go, I don't know, dumb stuff. Post-it notes, Sharpie markers, paper, just little dumb stuff, but it was missing. Yeah. Bottles of wine, you know, stuff like that. So then I think he put a couple booby traps out and caught her. Huh. So then he would always do so much nice things for me. I told him, because his house was spotless. So she would more or less come over to get paid $200 every time she came over to clean the clean.
Right.
So I told him, you do so many nice things for me. Why don't you just let me do a vet's job? And then I'll just do this when you're gone at the gym or whatever. And he's like, okay. He was so into it. And then, like, I'm not a snooper. Like, I would never look through your phone, your wallet. I don't give a shit. If you're doing something you're not supposed to be, and I have to actually go that far and dig through your stuff, I don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I don't. Well, I would not look through anything at his house. Well, one day in the broom closet, there would be these little keys, and it looked like a fuse box. And some days the little keys would be in there, and some days the little keys would be out of there. And I'm thinking to myself, what is that, a fuse box? And then I'm like, the only people that come to this house is me and him. So he's the one that's taking these keys in and out, not me. So he was gone one day, And I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if this is a fuse box. That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
And I went to open that little box. And when I opened it, I had to, like, seriously, because I have bad eyes, I had to, like, zoom in on what I was looking at. This dude had little cameras. They were like black and white, little tiny screens. There was like 8 of them, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. He had every place in my house being videotaped from his house.
Okay. Wow.
So he's been watching me because he would call me and be like, I used to have a Twinkie stash under my bed, and he would call me and be like, ooh, how's those Twinkies taste? I'm like, how does this dude always know when I'm sneaking a Twinkie? Like, he always knew what I was doing. And I'm like, he's got ESP, or, you know, like, how does this dude know? So when I found those, I could hear him coming up the hallway, and I hurried up and shut that little door, stuck the keys back in there, stood up and said, take me home right now. And he's like, why? My face was literally white. Like I had seen a ghost.
Yeah.
Like, I was so afraid of him at that point. I went back home and told my sister what I just seen. And she's like, you mean to tell me that he's been videoing me in here? I go, yeah. In the bathroom, in your bedroom, everything.
Wow.
So everything that we've been doing in this house since we moved in here, he's been sitting in his house watching us while we're here.
Did you speak to an attorney about that?
No, I was so afraid of him. And I was so sick to my stomach when I found it out. And I still had to do some more wrestling shows with him. On my contract, I had to make those shows. And there was still like a couple more Slim Jim dates we had to do. It was everything in my power to have to sit around him. He still didn't know why I was acting like that.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't tell him that I seen that. I just wanted away from him. So I moved out of that house, and I had a moving company move me into another house and do it in the middle of the night so he couldn't have anybody follow me. So I was like a prisoner in my own house.
Because you probably could have sued him for quite a lot of money and won if...
I was, at that time, I was so young and hurt and heartbroken and just sick to my stomach. I swear to God, I instantly hated his guts. I never ever wanted to see him again. I wasn't mad that he was videoing me. I was mad that he didn't trust me.
Right, because you had been very loyal to him and put up with...
oh, yeah, put up with so much crap. And then you got my little sisters in here, and you're watching her take a shower? Like, dude, who does that?
That's really actually... I won't even comment on that.
A pedophile, a pervert. Yeah, exactly. I'll comment on that. That's, it's crazy because I was a very mature young girl when I was young. I had a baby young. I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I have grew up so fast, So when I got with Randy, a lot of people kind of weirded out at that because he was so much older than me. But in actuality, I was so much more mature than him. Like, he was such a little kid around me. It was so weird. It was like I took care of everything when we were together, and I was so young. And when I would think about it back then, I never thought, look how young I am and look how old he is. I never thought that because I have like an old soul. But now that I'm older and I look back at pictures of us, I'm thinking,
what was the age difference?
I don't know how old he is. It was like 20-something years.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was crazy because when we were together, I never pictured him one day older than me because he was so immature.
Right.
And, like when the whole Stephanie McMahon thing came out and all this and that, and he told me about it, I didn't even blink.
Because she was apparently underage at that time, I guess.
Like 16 or something.
Allegedly, yeah.
Well, the thing is like, and then, like I ended up, like he told me he wanted to have sex with my sister. So that was the end of the relate. That was the very last thing that happened, huh?
Was she over 18 yet at that point?
No, she was 17.
Right. Okay.
And he's like, when you're sleeping, I'll just go in there and have sex with her. And when she's sleeping, I'll just go in there and have sex with you. And I said, you know what, get out of my house. And then I thought he wouldn't remember that the next day because he was on drugs. The next day he came back saying that same crap. I'm like, dude, get away from us.
He was born in 1952. I just looked it up.
Okay, I was born in 76.
Oh, yeah. So he's over 20 years older than you, I guess. 20.
Yeah, and, like, I never seen it when I was with him. But now that I'm older, and, that'd be like me. I'm going to be 43 years old going out with a 20-year-old. I couldn't even see myself going out with a 20-year-old. I'd have nothing in common with them. What would we talk about? Nothing. Like, I don't know. That's just me, though.
Was he harder to live with than a rock star? Because you obviously dated numerous rock stars as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would never, like, I'll tell you what, I've been around the rock scene and the wrestling scene. I don't think I'd ever date another wrestler for the long as I like, I just don't want to be part of the scene. I mean, I do and I don't. It's weird because, like I said, it'll always be part of me. And when I go to the wrestling shows, I love seeing the fans. I love seeing my friends that are wrestlers. Because that's like our time to see each other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a reunion for all of us to hang out and have dinner, or kick it with each other, see how each other's doing and stuff like that. So it's fun for us. But it gets old.
Right.
I haven't been on TV in how many years, and I'm so surprised that I still get booked and people still, I appreciate it so much. Like, actually care for my autograph and want to come and talk to me. That really is very, very nice, and I'm very blessed.
Well, let's bring that up right now for people listening to this. If they want to book you, is there any way they can contact you through social media or anything, or do you have an email?
Yeah, I actually just started. I'm like a caveman when it comes to anything with the internet, which I need to start like getting on my game. I just started an Instagram page. It's George Frankenstein 56. And then I also have George Frankenstein on Facebook. And you can get a hold of me like that. And if you want to book me, you can just get a hold of me on Facebook's probably easiest.
So you answer your messages and you do autograph
appearances,
right? Mainly.
Yeah, I do all that stuff. I mean, like, if it's worth me going and, and I mean, I don't charge a lot for autograph sessions anymore, especially if I have to stay in a hotel and they have to pay for my hotel and food and all that. You know what I mean? I'm pretty easy to work with.
And if so, you have do you have a Twitter or anything like that?
You know what? I don't.
And your food blogs, where can people find those?
I just started actually doing it. I'm just now starting to take pictures of the food that I cook, and I'm trying to, like, have some friends of mine help me to teach me what I have to do to start, videoing it and what we're going to be doing and stuff like that. I guess the gist of what everything is doing. So that's my new project.
Well, you always had a great physique, and obviously you're into food by your new project. Do you have any general food advice for?
Well, I'm trying to also do some cannabis infused food, and you can book me to do cannabis infused parties where I do all the cooking and stuff like that. I'm also into that as well. Okay. So,
what's your favorite cannabis infused treat to have?
I like the gummy bears as long as they're not too strong. I mean, I've had some really bad experiences with like the chocolate bar and brownies that I made myself that put too much in there, and I ended up having, oh my God, I almost had to call 911 to ride that out. It's horrible.
Because you could think you're having a heart, you could convince yourself you're having a heart attack sometimes, I guess.
Oh no, this was so bad. I was just like, I was projectile throwing up and peeing my pants at the same time.
Oh wow, that's
a bad one.
Overdose for sure.
Oh yeah, I did. I overdosed myself. But yeah, I'm doing stuff like that. So like, I guess I was going to start a cookbook for autism, and I started it years ago. And then when I got divorced, I had left all my recipes and all that stuff at his house. And, stuff gets lost when you get a divorce. So I'll probably have to start all over again. But right now I'm looking for getting a food truck starting for next year so we can do some video vlogging with the food truck as well. I live right by Point Pleasant Beach. So I'm sure there's a bunch of fun stuff on Jersey Shore to be videoing with the people down there while I'm doing my food truck.
Right. Well, thanks a lot for talking to us. Do you want to talk about your book one last time? You're working on it right now with Matthew.
Yes. I don't know exactly what the projection date is before Christmas, so that you guys can order the book, for Christmas or whatever. I know me and Matthew are going to put it on Kindle. And right now I'm actually just going through some of my stuff to try to find the pictures to go with the stories that I'm talking about. And since I've moved so many times, it's like finding a needle in a haystack to get some of these pictures. But yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting. It's more or less 43 years of my life that's been completely insane. I mean, I have a lot to talk about. I mean, even Matthew, he's like, this is just crazy. And I told him today, I'm like, I still have more stuff to put in there, So, it's definitely, if you're a wrestling fan and you know anything about Randy, or if you're a Misfit fan, Glenn Danzig fan, any of that stuff, it's going to be in there about the touring and all the cool experiences and fun stuff. And like you said, I don't throw anybody under the bus, but I don't lie either.
No, you seem honest. One last question here. Being with Randy Savage and these rock stars, what's the craziest fan experience that you've been a part of? Like, just like absolutely out of their mind fans.
Well, one time I had when me and Randy turned heel on Rey Mysterio. That night, somebody threw a 9-volt battery in my face, and it hit my jawbone. And I thought, literally, from my cheek down, I was missing my whole face. Like I thought I got shot. And they must have thrown it from like the third tier of the arena because it had some like velocity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when we went to leave and we got the car from underneath the arena, I don't remember what state we were in, but the fans were so mad about what happened that they flipped our car over while we were in it driving out of there. It was really scary. I mean, you seen people with knives. And he's like, just be calm, you know. He's like, I got you, don't worry. But I mean, it was like seriously crazy that there was a couple people that when I first walked out into the ring, I seen them, and they were saying, "Hey, George," and they were so nice and waving. Those were the same people flipping the car over, saying, "I'm gonna kill you." I was like, "Oh my God." Like, this is really getting real. And, you know, he had told me stories about how they used to stab his dad and how when he was a little boy, there'd be like after his dad would wrestle, there'd be, you know, pocket knives that people were throwing in the ring while his dad was, you know, wrestling, and shoes and whatever people got, they can throw, you know, it hurts.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely, and my main thing about wrestling, my biggest, I can end with this, is, you remember when you asked what my favorite thing was about the whole thing?
Yeah.
Was watching Randy as being not only my boyfriend, but he was my best friend. Watching him, it had nothing to do with me, but it was like to watch him in his glory, like do what he loved, be who he was, and be so great at it. Every day that we would do a match and he would get up on the, you know, when he would get ready for the big elbow and he'd stand there and get his balance. Every time I would pray in my mind, just pull it out perfect, you know, like I'd be praying for him. And then when he'd go to actually do the elbow, I would just be so proud of him. And whenever you see me like jump at the matches and stuff, that was all real. Like I was really, really proud of him. And those are like my most best memories of wrestling, watching him in his glory doing his thing. I never really thought about myself through the whole thing. I think I was too young, you know.
Well, that's a great story, and we thank you very much for speaking with us. Hopefully, we'll have you on again once your book is actually out. And
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I probably do some book signings and stuff. And that's another thing. If people want to book me when I do have the book that comes out and everything, that'll be cool. You know, do some book signings and do maybe some Q&A, question answering type stuff. You know, with the fans. Or another thing I was thinking about getting into. And I have a lot of stories that are hilariously funny. And I went to Nick Foley's stand-up, and I've got some stories that are just out there. And I'm thinking about doing that. I was talking with the King of Connecticut on that, and he said that he had done some stuff with Larry Sabisco lately. So maybe he can help me.
Bonner too for comedy, I believe.
Yeah, like I always said I wanted to do it, and I used to live in LA, so I would go by the Comedy Store all the time, and I've actually met Pauly Shore and stuff like that, and I've got a cousin who's actually doing stand-up now. So, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't be too bad at it.
Well, let's hear a joke. Let's hear something funny.
Oh, my God, you got me on the spot right now. I'm sitting here like pouring sweat. Oh, I have to think of some stuff. I'm so out of it right now. I didn't even know me and you were going to do this.
No, neither did I, but at least it's easy to talk to you. You definitely have some great stories, but you got to finish this off with something funny since you talked it up so much.
Oh man, let me think of what he would say. Well, there's a funny story I could tell you about that. Every time something's bad, I always think of this, so I could tell the fans this one. Every time we would go to a drive-thru and we were real in a bad rush, like to get on an airplane or whatever, say we hadn't ate and we had to go to McDonald's just because it was like out of necessity. It was the only thing on the way to the airport or whatever. When we go through the drive-thru and he'd order the food, once the people that were in McDonald's or whatever fast food place it was, they would notice that it was him. They would hold the food hostage. Like he'd already paid for it, but they'd keep it until he gave everybody in there. Now we're in a hurry as it is. And, like give people autographs and say hi and take pictures. Oh, it was horrible. And he would just yell all the time, people can do what they want to do. And like every time I'm having like a really hard situation, in the back of my head to this day, I hear him saying that, and it is just too funny. Oh my God. People can do what they want to do. So like if you're at a place and they don't want to give you a pack of ketchup, they can give you that ketchup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. If you had to be there, but he was something else, man. Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be hard, actually. People don't think about how hard it is to be a celebrity dealing with fans like that every time you go out in public.
Yeah, he had been sued like, I think 13 times too. From fans saying that, he hit their kid or I don't know, but he was telling me about that. He was just like, you can't do anything without them wanting to sue you, But yeah, definitely, I've got a million stories, that's for sure. I don't know how to put them into how I would do the whole stand-up thing, but Matthew's going to help me with that, so we'll see how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do a good job helping you, and I'm sure he'll do a great job.
They're definitely funny stories that everybody will enjoy. You guys will get a kick out of them because they are just insane. And a lot of them aren't going to be in my book because just so many, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure it could be the size of an encyclopedia if you put everything in there.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because all the stories that I have are about everybody you guys know. You know what I mean?
That's cool. Well, I really look forward to that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please help me out and like this video. Then click the subscribe and get notifications buttons so you don't miss any of my latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Facebook at The Hannibal TV for more live streams and videos. And while you're at it, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Hannibal TV.